Welcome back to the Cinnamon Effect. Today, I have Megan Klein, who is the founder and CEO of Little Saints, which is a line of plant magic mocktails. As a former hydroponic farmer turned plant-based foods innovator, Megan was passionate about creating Little Saints plant magic mocktails, in a way that honored her respect for both food science and sacred plant medicines. So Megan, thank you so much for coming on today. So excited to have you.
Thank you so much for having me, Kimberly.
Yeah. So I discovered these mocktails through a friend of mine, Kirsten. She sent me like something on Instagram and knows that I had gone alcohol free. It's been like kind of a 2-year journey that I've been on. And so she sent me through Instagram your product, and I immediately like looked at it all, ordered it, and I ordered the St. Ember, and I ordered the, like, I think an assortment pack, and really fell in love with them and shared them with, my husband, who still like occasionally drinks, and also like friends that come over. They're always interested to try it. So tell me more about how this all started for you. And I know that you also have gone alcohol free. So I definitely want to like dive in a little bit to your story too, because it's really interesting. So how did this idea to create a mocktail brand come about?
Well, I grew up in Wisconsin, where beer is like, basically a major food group. I love Wisconsin so much. And I love socializing. Mm-hmm. And so like what I kind of saw growing up, and like I have a great family and great friends, like was just that everyone kind of drank to have fun. I think that's, a pretty common experience.
Totally.
And so I'm pretty extroverted and I love to socialize. So I probably was drinking, 5 nights a week, even if it was just like meeting someone after work for drinks for my whole life until my early 40s. And it wasn't that I had hit rock bottom. I wasn't a mess. I was always like luckily functioning. And I say that with like tremendous respect. I do have like people that have gone through AA in my family, and I know like how harmful alcohol is to people, but that was not the case for me. Mm-hmm. I was like still going to work, but I just started noticing probably a little bit before COVID. I was like, I feel like I'm getting slower, and I need like 3 cups of coffee to get back to baseline in the morning, even if I just had a glass of wine. Mm-hmm. And so during COVID, I was single, living alone in Detroit. And I realized I was like, oh shoot, I substituted my like drinking with friends to like drinking, by myself, just watching TV. And
I think a lot of people did that, right?
Yeah, totally. And since I started Little Saints, like I, talked to so many people that have done that. So, and then I just started realizing, I was like, oh my gosh, I'm being so healthy during the day. I've been an entrepreneur in the food space for the past 10 years. And I've, really like into wellness and biohacking. And I was being so healthy during the day, like putting into my body only things that were like, the best they could be. And then I was like having Negronis at night. And it took me a while to realize that was probably the thing that was making me feel kind of numb. Yeah. Like during COVID, I just realized like how, like I had a baseline, like anxious and depressed feeling. Mm-hmm. And then I would feel better when I was drinking.
Yes.
And I was, this is not good. I would need it at the end of the day to be like, okay, I feel relaxed now.
Yeah. I laugh with you because I was doing the same, like, I feel like on my drinking journey too, I was doing the same thing. I was like organic food, yoga, drinking all the water, and like, really focused on my health. And then, I was drinking wine or drinking, tequila or whatever. And just after a while, it was like, this doesn't really match up for me anymore, So I get that.
I mean, like $100 in supplements, like, and then
a day,
like, all the money on like facials and all that stuff. And then like 3 Negronis. Yeah. It was totally like, now I can see that it was not, they were sort of canceling each other out in many ways. So long story short, I was in Detroit, was like, okay, I'm going to finally get through dry January. I had tried dry January like 100 times, or I'm not 100 years old, but as many years as I've been like drinking, I think I've tried dry January, and I like I'm, a product developer. So I bought everything on the market and I had my whole kitchen table full of like every non-alcoholic option available. And there are like some beautiful products for sure, but everything either was full of sugar or like a juice cocktail, or it was just like a sparkling water that was like dressed in a non-alcoholic can.
Yes.
And, or it didn't have any smell. So I'm like really big into smells and essential oils. And I like studied how the sense of smell can like relax us kind of quicker than anything else. If like we smell a smell that reminds us of a meal our grandmother cooked for us, or like, like being in the forest with some friends or something, like we will like automatically kind of feel better. And so I knew that like a non-alcoholic drink needed a smell and none of them had a smell. So then
interesting. Cause I never really thought about that, but that's a very interesting note. Yeah.
And then when we have a glass of wine, or when I used to have wine, like, I would remember like the smell of wine. And then when I would have it again, I would feel comforted by that smell subconsciously.
Yeah.
So, and that's when I really, so I was like, okay. And I have been, I love and passionate about product development. Before Little Saints, I founded a plant-based salad dressing and dip brand.
Yes.
It's called Field and Farmer. And I worked with food scientists, of course. I'm not like a food scientist myself, but I help create the formulations for those. And I just know how to make like healthy, clean ingredient foods and drinks. So I kind of looked at what was out there at non-alcoholic in January 2021. And I thought, okay, I can like really kind of improve on this. So then I worked with a food scientist with her master's in adaptogens. So she's really like an adaptogens expert. Wow. And then I consulted with some neuroscienzers, and we even have like a shamanic advisor to advise us on the emotional properties of plants. And basically I wanted to come up with something that like tasted as close to my favorite cocktails as possible, was sugar-free and had a smell.
Wow.
And that's how Little Saints was born.
Well, I love that I love that you found somebody with a master's in adaptogenics, and the shamanic like idea. How did that, like, I wouldn't have thought like that actually is like a lot of love that has gone into this product, because that is such just an emotional, I've worked with a shaman before. So tell me how that came about. How did you find somebody? How did they like evaluate it? Tell me more about that.
And let me say, I know you know this, but for anyone listening, Little Saints does not get you high. There are no drugs. Like, we're talking about shamans, but we're really talking about it from a like, thinking about plants as part of spirituality, or like as part of, like plants as like things that have intelligence, basically.
Yeah. Like, or even feeling connected or grounded to the earth. And, I love that.
Yeah, no, exactly. So I used to, in addition to like kind of the mild depression and anxiety I felt from drinking, I used to suffer from like pretty significant depression. And in my early 30s, I went to Peru and I did plant medicine retreats there. And it really changed my mental state and really like helped my outlook on things. And it was then that I I made friends with people who ended up studying at that jungle, center and becoming shamans. So one of my best friends is a sacred plant medicine shaman. And so I've learned so much from her, and I've studied throughout the years just about the emotional properties of plants, and how when we interact with them with intention, they can, really like heal us, and they can bring us joy, and they can really enhance our lives, as opposed to, what I used to do is just like cut up kale and eat it. Yeah. If you interact with the plant with intention and really, kind of make it into a reciprocal exchange, however crazy woo that sounds, like, I really believe that like, then the drinks, Little Saints, like has like a better effect and is like more like powerful than it would be if we didn't put that intention into it. So what did Ashley, my friend, the shaman do? I told her, okay, Little Saints, like the fuel of Little Saints is always going to be functional mushrooms. So I'm drinking my favorite Negroni spritz right now. Reishi mushroom. in it. And then our St. Ember spirit that you tried has lion's mane. And so, I could talk to her and I was like, okay, what would be good botanicals to combine with mushrooms from like a plant intelligence standpoint?
Yeah.
And plants grow well together, like kind of just really trying to mimic nature and get her perspective on things. So worked with her a little bit on that. And then she also gives us a blessing. So we bless the tanks, or we have whoever, our co-packers bless the tanks on each run. So we put joy into our little babies and then we send them out into the world.
I love that. That makes it all the more special. And I love that you're telling that story and that part of it, because it's something obviously that's helped you. I mean, do you think you would have ever had the idea for this if you had not kind of, I just feel like I hear, someone who's gone on ayahuasca journey or whatnot, and they really just come out with so much clarity and new, direction. Is that how you feel about that?
I think it was definitely a contributing factor. And my whole career has been dedicated to my love of nature. I've always been totally obsessed with learning about plants. And I was an environmental lawyer before before I was doing any of this. So in my 20s, I was an environmental lawyer. I worked for Earth Justice. I fought coal plant emissions and factory farms. And I was really trying to protect my love, protect nature and protect the environment through that job.
Yes.
And then it was funny. It was my family was just looking at me like I was crazy. I was not making anyone love the environment anymore. In fact, I was kind of too much of a crazy militant in my own life. Earth Justice is great. I was not exhibiting it very well. And I think I was turning people off from nature, and because of my craziness. And so I sort of thought, okay, well, I think the best way to sort of fulfill my mission of being a good steward of nature is to actually inspire people. And I was like, okay, what could I do? Where do I think that my gifts lie, that I could inspire people? And it really was through creating products that honor plants in different ways. So I ran a hydroponic basil farm. That was my first job, not as a lawyer. And then I started the salad dressing and dip brand I told you about.
And that is still on the market today. Yeah.
It's called Farmer. It's in Whole Foods. My baby, my first babe, is still out there. It's great. What we did with that was local food is amazing. We all wish we could go to the farmer's market every weekend and cook vegetables, but very few people have time to do that. And so what we did at Field and Farmer was we sourced local produce from farmers. It was a company in Chicago. So we sourced produce ingredients from farmers in the Midwest, and then we put them into the salad dressings and dips. So I've always been really passionate about plant ingredients and using the most sustainable practices possible to get them into food and beverage.
Yeah, you have such a background, a vast background and experience for this. I feel like you are the plant queen, which is amazing.
So many other plant queens, but thank you.
So you were saying when you were creating Little Saints that you wanted to create something with a smell, something that tasted like a cocktail. You were telling me that you were polling friends and having them taste things. What is that process like? The food scientist comes up with something and then you kind of tweak it from there?
Yeah. So I told them, it actually took us about a year to get this Negroni right. Negroni was one of the first flavors I wanted to do. And then, we wanted to do some sort of a Moscow Mule and something that would be citrus tequila-ish, like a margarita or a Paloma. So I had, I've done hundreds and hundreds of in-person tastings. I really think that there's no better way to do marketing than just talk to people. Yeah. And so it was deep COVID. So I had a lot of, I was in Detroit. I remember sending people Instagram DMs and mass texts and being like, hey, I have, a formulation. I got 500 cans made. Can you taste these? First you test them with yourself and your friends and family. And then you're okay, I think that this is good. And I got the sweetness to the right level and I can smell this. And then you also have to look at how much these ingredients cost to make sure that it's within the range. And then once you think that like it tastes good to you, then you send it out to people. So I did do like an in-person tasting outside, I have a little mint green Little Saints Jeep, and I was like taking it around to people in the Detroit area and getting feedback on the flavors. So I learned a lot. We didn't originally launch with the Negroni because that was not one of people's favorite flavors.
Okay.
They are now our ginger mule and our Paloma, which are still the best selling flavors.
I was gonna say those are my top two. I had never had a Negroni before tasting the Little Saints Negroni. So I don't know what one tastes like in cocktail land, but I thought the mocktail was fantastic. But I will say the ginger mule and the Paloma are my favorites because those were kind of like my cocktails maybe of choice when I was drinking alcohol, right? And a margarita. I like a margarita too.
Have you tried our spicy margarita?
I tried the spicy margarita. Yep, because I just bought, I think you had a Black Friday sale. And so I bought the sampler of that. And yes, very good. Now, do you find that people are like drinking those, like tell me how people are integrating them? Because obviously like I don't drink, so I'm just drinking them like over ice. But do you find that some people that even drink alcohol still are kind of incorporating them into like their night or day or whatever they're doing?
Actually, so yesterday I was telling you we were doing this video shoot for a Little Saints video. And yesterday was actually also my 45th birthday. So
gosh, happy birthday.
I can tell you, thank you. So I can tell you how this actually works like in real life. So I had 20 friends come over and we had a bar set up and we had a bartender, and the bartender made 3 Little Saints cocktails. So we had like 2 with St. Ember and 1 Negroni that he dressed up, like, so they're non-alcoholic. And then we also had mezcal on the bar. We also had vodka because that's the way real life works, right?
Yeah,
like if
totally.
you go to a bar, there's going to be alcohol and non-alcohol. Mm-hmm. And it was interesting. Like some people liked the way that the non-alcoholic cocktails look and they had the bartender put mezcal in them, but then they switched to St. Ember or, they'll like stay with it all night long. I would say when we've had, Little Saints, we love to throw parties. Mm-hmm. When we do it, most of the time it'll be alcohol and not alcohol. And like last night, people drank, the 20 friends that I had there, we all drank 8 bottles of St. Ember.
Oh, wow.
1 bottle of mezcal. Actually 1 1/3 bottles of mezcal and like a 1/4 bottle of vodka.
Oh,
so
wow.
whatever that is.
Yeah.
People drink as much non-alcoholic as alcoholic. And I would say the people that did drink alcohol, it seemed to me, I mean, one of my friends was right next to me, like, he'll have like 1 like mezcal cocktail and then he had St. Ember.
I love that.
Some people ask if like they can mix them.
Uh-huh.
People, you can do whatever you want, but
be creative.
Be creative. But most of the time, people seem to do one or the other. And that's what we encourage because it's the whole point is that it's like, it really gives you that feeling, that first sip of wine feeling, without alcohol. So if you can get that, like, why mix it?
Totally. Like I remember being in Mexico when I was drinking still and doing a tequila tasting and ending with mezcal. And then I remember a friend of ours said, like, we were eating our meal at that point, we were eating dinner, and he was like, all I can taste is 1,000 burning tires in my mouth. And that had just like always stuck with me, that mezcal is like 1,000 burning tires in your mouth sometimes. But when I tried the St. Ember, and I like that smokiness, like very complex, right? But the St. Ember was just so nice. And like, I did feel like I had a little, like a little relaxation. Like it just was like a nice feeling. And also the taste was not 1,000 burning tires, but yet it still had like this kind of smokiness and complexity to it. So I really like that.
Oh, thanks. Yeah. One thing we did with the St. Ember that we didn't do with the canned non-alcoholic cocktails, just because St. Ember is naturally spicier, is we gave it a throat burn. I love the throat burn from like a tequila or like a spicy marg. So we made sure that our spirit, the St. Ember, has that.
Oh, I love that. That's so smart because, I think it's important to note that, so many people are just choosing not to drink alcohol, and that, the real world is that you are going to parties and people are drinking and people are not drinking, and they're, like you're cohabitating and like, I like that it's something that's not like, oh, you're like sober Sally over here or whatever. Like this is, you're still, having fun. It's still social. It's the St. Ember bottle is like beautiful. I mean, it's glass. It looked like you can gift it. Like it's really pretty. Also looks like a spirit bottle, that of like vodka or whatnot, but it has beautiful artwork on it. I think you guys did a really great job. Like, is there any, I also love you have the cans there. I wish I would have brought mine, but, I love the like pink and green, like what was the story? Is there a story behind the colors or the artwork or anything?
I wanted to make sure that the cans did not look like a daytime drink. I wanted to make sure that they looked a little like naughty and like you'd be proud to hold one at a party and drink it and not look like you're drinking a soda or a sparkling water. So, they've got like a mushroom crest on the front of them. And I also wanted it to look chic. Yeah. And so I just love the color mint, and it evokes kind of like botanicals. And so I wanted people, our designer just did a great job with it.
I was going to say, you guys nailed it on that. I really, and I think that was my first, glance of it was like, ooh, I like the way this looks, this looks like something I would drink. So, bravo on that. You guys did a great job. So you're using, in the smaller mocktails, you're using, adaptogenic mushrooms in there. So the lion's mane is in the St. Ember, and then in the other cocktails you talk about terpenes. And so I had never heard that. So can you tell me a little bit more about that?
We should just call them aromatics. So terpenes are basically aromatics. Like when you walk into the forest and you smell pine and you're like, oh, I feel good. Mm-hmm. Those are actually little terpene molecules, like getting absorbed into our senses. And so it's just like the smell molecules.
Gotcha.
But you can't really say like reishi mushroom plus smell. I suppose we could say reishi mushroom plus aromatics, but then people think that's like a perfume. Yeah. So and terpenes, according to the food scientists and our neuroscience advisors, they really do have like mood lifting properties. Mm. Like they say that, a reishi mushroom or a lion's mane mushroom is like putting your foot on the gas. Like that's going to make you feel like take the edge off, or it's going to make you feel like a little sharper. And then the smell, the aromatics, the terpenes are like the steering wheel. So they kind of like lift your mood a little bit.
Oh, I love that. I love that. Is that like at all, and I'm just kind of new to all of this, but that's not like, it's not like the level of like a microdose or anything like that. Is it in the drinks or would you? No.
No. They're not. So first of all, thank you. They are not psychedelic. These are just like functional mushrooms that have no intoxicating or psychedelic properties at all. It's like they're grown organically in California, but they've been used in reishi and lion's mane have been used in Chinese medicine for thousands of years. They're really like who made mushrooms so popular in the US. And so, no, they're not, there's no psychedelics in them.
Okay. Clarifying that for a lot of people that don't know the difference. So you kind of, when we talked before, you're like a little bit of a nomad. You're down in Miami now, right?
Oh, I'm so happy. I was a nomad past tense. I'm so happy that I went through that period. So I lived in Chicago and I was like an adult, like in my like 30s and early 40s. I owned a condo and I like thought I would be there forever. And I was near my family in Wisconsin. And I was single. I still am single, but I was just like during COVID, it just was like, I don't feel like this is the place that I really want to stay. So I spent 2 years really bouncing around and trying to figure out where I wanted to live. So I moved to Detroit. That's where I started Little Saints. I love Detroit so much. I fell in love with the street art. It has like the coolest like art and music culture.
I've never been there. What drew you there originally? The culture?
Yeah, the culture. And it was like close enough to, Chicago where I was living, and I had like a few friends there. And it seemed like a good place to start Little Saints. Like Detroit has all these amazing, like old abandoned buildings and churches. And I had this vision. I was like going to buy an old abandoned church and paint it mint green. And that was going to be Little Saints headquarters.
Oh, great idea. I love that.
Maybe we can find one in Miami. And then I moved. So I lived in New York for 10 years after college. So I moved back to New York, and then I was bouncing between New York and LA, which, as everyone knows, is not an easy commute, but most of our wholesale business was out in LA that first year. And then long story short, I was just like driving myself in crazy with the travel and indecision. So I, if the listeners don't think I'm crazy already, here we go. No. I talked to my money astrologer, and she did my astrocartography and told me that like Miami would be the best place for Little Saints for the business.
Oh my God. I love that.
Yeah.
That's well, so I had an astrologer pick my wedding date. So I don't think that's crazy.
Really?
Yeah. I was like, tell me what day, like it had to be on a waxing moon, not a waning moon. You know, it was like a whole science to that. So I love that. So she just said that was like the place you should go.
She did a whole math equation. You know, it's based on where you were born, the day, the time. And she ranked the cities. I was like, okay, it's got to be in like the continental US.
Okay.
And it has to be a major city because, you know, like a brand needs to like have like, you know, we've got to be in a major city.
Yeah.
And so she ranked it and she said that Miami was number one. And I'd only been to Miami like 2 or 3 times in my life. I had like a really great friend here, but like I did not have any community in Miami. And then the second, she said like a Denver or Boulder. And then the third was LA.
Oh,
and
wow.
I love all my friends in LA. We've done great business there. I just like can never figure out like enjoying living there. It just doesn't feel right to me. And Denver, Boulder, I barely know anyone. So I was like, I guess I'm moving to Miami. And I love like warm weather. I love like jungle, kind of foliage and nature. And I just love how like wild Florida is. So
I'm a Florida girl, born and raised in West Palm Beach area. So, but Miami, I mean, Miami's always just a feast for the eyes, all the senses, the nightlife, like everything. It's so fun and exciting. So I want to know, you're into astrology. What is your sun sign, moon sign, and rising sign? Got to get into this.
Sagittarius sun. So yesterday was my 45th birthday. I'm a Leo moon, and I'm a Taurus rising.
Oh, Taurus rising. I'm a Taurus sun, Pisces moon, Virgo rising. Yeah. So that's fun. So tell me, like, what else is, like, you're very wellness focused. Obviously we kind of touched on that, but what are some things that you do to, reset, like for relaxation? What are some rituals, practices that you are into? Give me some wellness stuff.
Yeah, I would say my morning routine is like the key to my life, like living as an entrepreneur, So I wake up every morning and I do neurosculpting shaking. So I shake like an animal.
Okay.
For 30 seconds. And that kind of gets any stuck energy off of me. And then the way I actually got into all of this was one of the ways I used to suffer from really bad chronic pain. In my 20s, I was diagnosed with fibromyalgia because I could not get rid of back pain for 3 years. So I still wake up after I shake, and then I do some like back exercises when I wake up. And then I do some sort of a scent. So like right now I'm burning a candle, or I'll burn some Palo Santo, and I'll like get into my senses. And then I'll meditate.
Okay.
I meditate for about 20 minutes. I've got a really overactive mind. So over the years, my meditating has evolved into like kirtan or chanting, kind of sing.
Yeah.
Meditate.
I love that.
And then I do 20 minutes of yoga.
That's great. So what time do you wake up?
I'm not that much of an early riser.
Okay.
I set my alarm for like 6:40 every day. What time do you wake up?
I'm about 6:30. I have a 7-year-old. So, I have to. I feel like, I don't know, maybe I would get up. I've talked about this before. I'm not really like a morning person, but having a husband that's a morning person and a son that has to get up, like, I got to get up and have a couple minutes to myself. But yeah, I should really carve out more time for meditation and things like that. Typically I'll do that like during the day or at night, if I have some free time. I kind of fit it in where I can, not as organized in the morning to do that. But I think the morning routine is super important. And I love that. Do you have a certain candle that you like? What's that candle that you got?
Oh, sure. This is Boy Smells. I think this is Boy Smells Herbaceous.
Oh,
I
okay.
still, it has a really good, it's a basil mint eucalyptus on the front. I love the brand Boy Smells. So I'm burning that.
And you're not sick of basil even after you grew lots and lots of basil. You still like the scent.
I went back to this candle like last month and it feels like really, it smells like, it feels really crisp in the winter time here. I feel like I wouldn't want to burn it in the summer. It would be too much, but like in the winter time, it's like, I don't know, I'm liking it.
Yeah.
I also
Florida winter.
I love, I've got Palo Santo here. I like Palo Santo candles and I'll burn this.
Yeah. Really earthy.
Scents happening.
Yeah, I like to burn things. I do a lot of Palo Santo, some saging around. Yeah, I like essential oils, all the things. So I love that you engage your senses, everything, getting everything going in the morning. I want to ask, let's see, is there any like advice that you have gotten along the way, maybe business related, life related, that has really stuck with you? Anything you would tell anybody, maybe it's a separate thing, but that wanted to start a business? I mean, I feel like what you're doing is really kind of groundbreaking. I see Little Saints as like a really groundbreaking idea and company. So yeah, three-part question. Like, where'd you find the strength for that too? You're a trailblazer.
Well, thank you. And I would say that, there were of course I was trying non-alcoholic drinks, which is how I started Little Saints. So people have definitely come before me in terms of the non-alcoholic beverage industry. And they're amazing. I've started 2 companies now and I've, run 3 startups. I think it's just like, you have to do it. I talk to so many people, like I love to talk to people who want to start businesses if I have time. And so many people it's like just the people that like put their ideas into action are who's entrepreneurs. You don't have to be a genius. Like you don't have to have a ton of money. Like it's just a lot of people have ideas and it's just the people that kind of catch them and put them into motion that end up starting things. So I would just say take the first step forward and keep going.
Yeah.
Because a lot of people, and don't let your fear get in the way. Or maybe, you don't have time. I would just say, first of all, just do it. It's a lot of times it's just getting rid of that fear and just doing it.
Yeah. How long did you have the idea of it before you put something into motion? And what was the first thing you put into motion?
Little Saints, at the same time that I was doing the non-alcoholic drinks, it was in Detroit and it also had a microdose THC part of it. And I only those were only on the market for a few months. They did not, they were a high price, low dose. They were 2 milligrams and they had reishi mushroom and they were beautiful and plant-based and this beautiful product. And it just wasn't the right market for it.
Gotcha.
So those gummies. So I actually started thinking about Little Saints about a year earlier because I wanted to do a really healthy microdose cannabis and mushroom product, non-psychedelic mushroom plus cannabis. But then once I did dry January 2021 and we got our first tall boy cans that were kind of ugly. So I sold them. I had a little mint green vending trailer that I sold out of in Detroit that I launched Little Saints. And
cool.
The first event for that was in May 2021. So that can be fast.
Yeah.
I like to be fast. I think that's what makes small companies and entrepreneurs great, especially in the food and beverage space, because I have a lot of friends from business school who work for huge food and beverage companies and they're brilliant, but there's too much bureaucracy. To get a new product to market, takes 18 months. And that's why I love to just move fast and get stuff out there.
Yeah. And it was just really you, right?
Well, yeah. I had that, the food scientist, neuroscientist, shaman team, but that first year was insane. I was really doing too much on my own. I was literally hitching a trailer to my car and bringing it to events and then somehow doing the sales and also doing Instagram. And then I realized I kind of suck at content. So I, hired a part-time person to do our social media posts, but I was still doing sales. And I really, I'd say that is another piece of advice. that I still haven't learned yet. Now I've learned it today, but when I first started Little Saints, I was like, oh, I've never run a beverage company before. And none of my other brands were like consumer, like direct to consumer brands, like Shopify brands.
Mm-hmm.
And so I thought I didn't know what I was doing. So in the beginning, I kind of hired maybe too many consultants to like help me learn, but they're wonderful people, but they were learning alongside with me.
Yeah.
And then at the end, I was like, oh shoot, like I probably could have just put more effort into this and learned on my own. But now finally I have a great team.
Awesome.
They're also like fellow entrepreneurs. I have like a head of marketing who's my right hand woman, and she's like amazing and like also super scrappy. And, I think you just need to, when you're an entrepreneur, people are like, how much money do I need to raise? Like, who do I need to hire? And my answer is always kind of like, figure out how to do most things like on your own first, even if it's just for the first few months before you start going to hire people, because you don't know what you need. Yeah. And like that person, the expensive consultant you hire is probably going to also want to hire people that they know, or they're going to do like things the way that they've done them. And if that's not the way that you've done it, then like your business like kind of like takes a turn, and it takes a while to get it back to square one.
Yeah. Do you feel like you have to like find yourself a little bit, find your mission, find your way on your own?
We did that this summer. Again, if anyone's listening, I like love everyone, but like we stopped paying for PR. We like got rid of PR. We got rid of our social media agencies, and we were like, we're just going to take everything and do it in-house for now. And like, because we're spending more time managing people than we are like, being creative and creating things that are like, it's always been authentic. Like, we've always like been like so close to the brand. Like I'm in it like all my hours basically. And I love it so much. But I think when you're doing everything on your own, it kind of shines through. It was interesting when we got rid of like PR and our like outsourced social media, our Instagram followers grew from like, I don't know, maybe 12,000 to 20,000.
Wow.
Like our sales grew, everything ended up like really growing. And I think that's just because me and Katie, my amazing head of marketing, we were just like, all right, let's listen to our customers. Let's like dive into what feels right. And like, let's get a little edgier than like we could when we've got like PR and like the agencies kind of telling us what to do.
Yeah. They're saying like pull back a little bit, but I think authenticity like always shines through. And so I love that you are following that. How do you, because I think even on your website, you talk about intuition and intention. How do you tap into your own intuition? Are you seeing signs? Are you like, how do you know you're on the right path?
I would say that is still something that I am learning like every month. I like get closer and closer to my intuition. When I'm meditating in the morning, I also forgot to mention that I like journal a lot. And so like that kind of gets and that's not always like, that's kind of like what you were saying, like I'll do it when I have time to, but I will, when I journal, I like kind of take note of my thoughts, and I definitely, what I'm trying to do is like close the gap between my intuition and taking action. So a lot of the times, like I'll get a gut feeling, like I feel it right here.
Okay.
I'm like really in touch with my body. So when I meditate in the morning, I would say, to answer your question really briefly, it's like my intuition is in my body for me. So I will like always check in with my body and see how my body's feeling. And if everything is feeling kind of clear, then I know like I'm on the right path. But if I feel constricted in here, or I feel constricted in my throat, or I have like a mild, not so great feeling in my stomach, I will like check into that. And then I will ask myself like, okay, are you being totally honest with yourself right now?
Yeah.
And then just like really just force myself, even if it's something I don't want to think about, if I'm having trouble with like one of our suppliers or like whatever, it's like, am I avoiding something? Because that would be my sort of pattern, would be like, I would be afraid of like doing something, and then I would be a little bit avoidant, and I would usually feel it somewhere in my body.
Yes, that makes a lot of sense to me, because I am an avoider. So I do the same thing. And I just did something like that recently. And someone told me, you need to eat the frog. Have you heard that saying?
What does that mean?
Yeah. So it means like you eat the frog, like Monday morning, eat the frog, the thing that you don't want to do the most, go ahead and do it. And obviously you don't want to eat the frog, but I had to do that this week. And there were two things that I was like dreading. And one thing I had to tell someone I didn't want to be a part of something. And so I'm like, okay, and I knew I had this like resistance because I didn't even want to I didn't want to see the person's name or anything. Like I was just kind of really avoiding. And so I'm like, okay, Kimberly, you got to eat the frog. And so then I just kind of tackle that first. And so that kind of sounds similar to what you're saying, is like that resistance of like, no, I don't want to do that, or I'm avoiding that, or that doesn't feel right. That's the frog to eat.
Oh my gosh. I love that. Thank you for that. And then how did you feel different in your body after you ate the frog?
Oh yeah. And I noticed, I think 'cause I'm a Taurus, that's like the throat chakra. Like I get real blocked right here. And I feel like I almost lose my voice. Like it's like I really feel, a lot of things right there. Anger, frustration, like avoidance, different things. It's kind of, it'll rest right there. And then I'm like, this has been a great exercise for me to start this podcast, because I'm really like channeling this throat chakra and trying to keep it as open as possible, So.
Oh, I love that. I love that.
So I want to end and just say, I want to thank you so much for creating this, this brand, this series of mocktails, because I don't know, I feel like it's just been such an important decision of mine to like not drink alcohol anymore. So the fact that there is something and it's cool and it looks nice and I can take it to a party and I can share it with other people, it's really great. So I want to thank you on behalf of, the other alcohol-free people out there. And you're amazing. Your story's inspiring. And thank you so much for being here with me.
Oh. Thank you. I love this conversation. I'm going to take this Eat the Frog with me. I'm so grateful for that.
Okay, eat the frog. Yeah. That's a good one. Thank you so much, Megan. Oh, Megan, let's talk. Where can people find you?
Oh yeah, thank you.
Or find the drinks too. Like you're in Erewhon, right?
Yeah, we're in Erewhon. We are in, Boisson is a major partner. They have non-alcoholic beverage stores in New York, LA, San Francisco, and soon to be Coral Gables in Miami.
Oh, awesome.
And then we just got a distributor in Miami, so we should start to be on shelf soon. And then, most of our sales still go through littlesaints.com.
Okay.
It's like 2 or 3 day shipping to Florida and everywhere else.
Yeah. They come packaged so nicely. And yeah, I've had great experience ordering everything. And yeah, it's awesome. Thank you so much.
Thank you so much.
Okay. Bye.